I gotta get your take first of all. So, um, don't you think it's a tad early to start the 2020 campaign with a rally on Saturday?
Right, he's already declared. This President Trump has already declared. He's already set up the legal entities required to run for re-election, and this was literally a campaign rally. It was paid for by the campaign. It was a campaign rally.
And billed as a campaign rally, right?
Billed as a campaign rally. Yeah, organized by the campaign people, whoever that is. Yeah, I mean, we used to talk about the permanent campaign as this horrible thing, and it was an idea that you're always running for president, but this is an actual permanent campaign. This is not normal. This is not how things typically
So why would he do it?
Well, one of the most interesting things about Trump administration so far, to my view, is you've seen the president do very little to try to expand his base of support, right? People come in, become president. You run for president.
Oh, no.
You win with that tiny...
He's done nothing.
And you come in and you don't do anything. Like, I mean,
nothing.
He's president of all Americans, and a lot of Americans are upset, and he doesn't really do much to reach out to those Americans that are upset. So it's interesting because, the way he won his campaign, obviously, was sort of on the margins, right? Like, turning a tiny amount of votes in, a few blue states, flipping those states, not winning the popular vote. It's kind of like that campaign theme is through his whole administration. So it's kind of like the whole thing is just one giant narrative to keep a place like Wisconsin as red as possible, or Michigan, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's a narrative to it that fits him.
But is it that he is just bored with the White House?
I think this was as much for him as it was for his reelection or for his supporters. I mean, this is a guy who has had a very tough, first month in the White House. Approval rating has only gone down. I think he's confronted the reality of being president much more difficult than he expected.
You mean this fine-tuned machine?
There's, it's an interesting use of a phrase. Right after you fire your national security advisor, for the shortest amount of time that anybody has held that tenure, I think this is where Trump lives. This is where he is excited.
Soaks up the adulation of the crowd.
Exactly.
Right? Evan, I mean, he needs that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it matters. I mean, listen, after he won his, I mean, if we look at this as one giant storyline from November 10th, he won the election. He waited a few weeks and he went back on the campaign trail again, where he did his victory lap of all states that he had won. He did not go to states he didn't win and try to convince those people or talk to those people. Yeah. He did a victory lap. He was president for a couple of weeks and he went back out on the campaign trail. This is sort of what he wants to do. And if you look at it too, he's been trying to leave the White House a few times since taking office, and two of those occasions he had to cancel them. Either out of, there's been some suggestion it was fear of protest on the road. He was supposed to go to Harley-Davidson, right? He was supposed to go to another one, of which I forget now. But he went to South Carolina for the Boeing thing. But he's been trying to get out, hasn't been able to do it, maybe because of protests, maybe because of something else. And so he has a campaign rally, which lets you sort of, I think, run things a little bit differently. And he gets to go out there and do his thing, fly into the hangar, and do the thing and get out of it.
It was Air Force One instead of the Trump plane.
Trump Force One, yeah.
But otherwise, the same music and the same whole thing, and the same podium in front of the plane, except this time it had the presidential seal on it.
Right.
And by the way, he said the same stuff that he said during the campaign. We're going to deliver health care. We're going to keep all the terrorists out of the country. Look at the media. They're the enemy. It was a replay of every one of his campaign speeches.
Well, he attacked Sweden. That was a new
one.
We had not.
The mysterious incident.
We're going to war with Sweden, I guess.
One thing
that was the Swedish Bowling Green massacre.
Bowling Green.
Right.
It's too tragic to even.
It's like a J. There's a J in it. It's like Bowling or something like that. Yeah.
There's an umlaut over the O.
Look at what's happening last night in Sweden. Sweden.
Last night.
Who would believe this? Sweden.
They took all the fish.
They took in large numbers. They're having problems like they never thought possible.
And so suddenly all the Swedes are saying, what the hell happened? We didn't even know it happened in our country. We didn't even know about it. And they're all asking each other what happened. We didn't.
One thing I think this could actually do for him, though, is what Obama tried to do with OFA and didn't really work, which is keep his base energized, keep them activated, and
4
engage.
years.
Well, at least for this first 100 days, I mean, he needs something. There's just members of Congress have been inundated by protesters on the left, telling them that they have to not repeal Obamacare, they have to block these nominees. They're getting nothing from the other side, and so maybe if he can energize his own people, that can keep them engaged, because there's a long history of your presidential coalition elects you and then just falls apart immediately when you need those people most to advance your agenda.
Well, don't think that his supporters are losing any enthusiasm. He invited one of them up on the stage with him. This guy's name. Wait a minute, I got it here. Gene Huber, who told CNN yesterday about his devotion to Donald Trump.
I got a 6-foot cardboard box of President Trump in my house. And I salute that every single day. And I pray and tell him, Mr. President, I pray for your safety today. And I'm not lying. I do that every single day to the president, but it's cardboard.
He's got a cardboard Donald Trump at home.
Let me say one thing about this guy, because I saw a lot of things on TV about this guy. But here's the thing of one of the reasons why you might see Trump on the campaign trail, what Alex is talking about with the idea of trying to give cover to his party. If you think back to 2015 even, right? There was no Republican in Washington for which there was a guy waking up every morning, standing up and saluting a cardboard cutout of. The thing about someone like Trump, he has, the most shocked people in Washington might be the GOP that now have this guy that a lot of them didn't like, that is now very popular, and they're all sort of, among Republicans, and they're all sort of like, swearing fidelity to now. But the idea of something like this, going on the campaign trail and finding that, this is exactly the kind of thing that happened during the whole primary season that we all sort of missed with what Trump's power was. Because, no one was saluting Jeb Bush, a Jeb Bush cutout. No one was saluting a Marco Rubio cutout. But a lot of people were getting up every morning and saluting a Donald Trump cutout. And this is one of the reasons why he goes out, because I feel like in my reporting here, since I've gotten back to Washington after the campaign trail, in my reporting here, going to the Hill, going to the White House, there are still a lot of Republicans who are think this guy is magic, because he was able to do something to their party that they were not able to do, which is to get that kind of enthusiasm back. So when he goes out and does this kind of stuff, it could be helpful to him in sort of keeping that Republican coalition in Washington together, because they're the ones who are watching all this stuff like that press conference, watching all this stuff like is going on, the pandemonium in the White House. But when they see a guy like that, I'm going to salute that cardboard Trump. They're like, we can't step to this guy. We got to be careful. He's the guy with the magic beans, whatever it is.
And especially in the House with these districts that are drawn so that they're disproportionately white working class. That's their base. Those people are the Trump voters are their base to a much higher degree than they are for members of the Senate, which I think explains part of the reason why you've seen senators be more oppositional to the Trump White House than the House. And so when they see that, that's where their base is, and it helps them helps Trump give some cover in his own party.
All right, now I don't want to get picky here, but so there were 9,000 people there Saturday, and they were talking about what a huge crowd it is. You covered the Bernie Sanders campaign. I mean, you got the President of the United States, you got Air Force One, you got all that publicity. I'm not impressed by 9,000 people.
Yeah.
Jane Sanders would have had 9,000 people. Don't mention Bernie. Bernie would have had 30, right?
Donald Trump had much bigger crowds during his campaign too. I mean, Evan was there too. And in fact, Bernie has had bigger campaigns since the election. He's been doing these healthcare rallies across the country. And he's gone places like Madison, Wisconsin, granted, but still, Melbourne, Florida. Trump went there for a reason. That was was Trump country.
I was surprised that it wasn't bigger. That's all.
That's a fair point.